Before we start, 3 things. 1, there's new merchandise on my site involving Elden Ring, including the one I'm wearing now. It's got Grace, it's shirt and a hoodie, and we also have the funny red bar, no maidens stuff as well. So if you'd like to check that out, it's in the description, orchid.com. Go ahead and, it's good stuff. 2, a lot of you know that I'm sponsored by Gamersups. I love them. They're amazing. They let me do whatever the hell I want. And you can use code Bricky for 10% off your purchase. But a lot of people have been asking me, well, what should I get? And also, when should I get it? And I'm here to help answer some of those questions. I really like Gamersups. I like the portions. It's not too chalky or anything. It's much smaller. The caffeine content is solid, and the 0 calories is huge. I always use it instead of any kind of soda or high caloric drink. And if you like soda a lot, just get like sparkling water, put some Gamersups in there. If you're worried about the caffeine content, just do 0 caffeine, literally 0 calories. It's so much better to lower like caloric intake, especially if you drink a lot of soda. But 5 recommendations real quick I want to hit you with. Number 1, Blue Raz. Great, seriously tasty, just hard enough, like a staple. Everyone should try it. 2, Strawberry Daiquiri. Surprising one there. One of my top favorites, really came out of nowhere. Honestly, amazing. 3, Guacamole Gamer Fart 9000, Russian Badgers flavor. Unironically, a top 5 on the site. Shockingly good. It must have gone through a lot of testing because it's shockingly good. 2, Dragon Fruit. Personal favorite. Love dragon fruit. Love the red color. Absolutely great. Finally, Black Cherry. It's one of my favorite sodas ever, and just literally throwing that in sparkling water, it's heavenly. So go check out the site in the description. Use code Bricky for your discount. And let's get on with, oh wait, the 3rd thing, that's right. I arm wrestled Raph from Dice Check after some alcohol. I won. I also sprained my brachioradialis, and I have to be in a sling and take muscle relaxers and go to PT for a couple weeks. Apparently I've won, but at what cost? Hello everybody, my name is Bricky, currently serving about 3 life sentences for killing Pope Dog. I didn't actually do that. I can't imagine anyone doing that besides the most malicious and curious. Elden Ring! It exists. It exists. It's actually here. It exists in this time frame. It's out. I hope I'm not the only one who finds that surreal. From the announcement trailer way back when to the YouTube channels dedicated to Elden Ring news, collecting dust. I can't believe it is out. It is played. I've beat it. I've beaten Elden Ring. And it's a game I will spoil. So be warned. It's genuinely difficult to approach a game like this to review. Normally you tackle it as a game, but then you have to tackle it as a Souls game, and then you have to tackle it as an open world Souls game, and somehow find a way to convey your feelings without sounding whiny, or worse, having a skill issue. There are few things that a Souls player hates more than hearing that something is too hard, which is a dilemma, because some parts of Elden Ring are simply too hard. There are flaws with Elden Ring. The game is absolutely not perfect. No FromSoft game is, no matter how much you want them to be. I am a solid proponent that Dark Souls 1 is janky, unfinished, and generally doesn't live up to the hype it's garnered. But it's the game that walked, or let's say power walked, mind you, so that games like Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, and Elden Ring could run, or even sprint. So the question isn't, is Elden Ring good? Because it absolutely is. The question is it the best FromSoft game? And in my unbiased, completely objective, word is law opinion, yeah, probably. But it's not my favorite, and I don't think it's gonna be a lot of people's favorite. The argument of best and favorite is something we'll touch on later in this video, but I still do believe that Elden Ring is a phenomenal, possibly the strongest Souls game there is, despite having its myriad of problems. But why is Elden Ring so good? Well, it immediately starts with the loathsome dung eater. Out the gate, Elden Ring is swinging for the fences. It has one of the best character creators out there for a guy who has not a single uttered line of dialogue, just grunts of pain and noises, and will be covered by armor for most of the game, and yet it's still fantastic. Throw together everything from Shrek, Megamind, or in my case, Jimmy Faith, a man of the cloth, and then set out with your preferred class. In my case, that is Wretch. A buddy told me to play Wretch because if you play Wretch, then finding your first bit of armor is a feeling in the journey that you'll never get again. And he was right. It actually was, at least for 3 parts of my armor. I didn't find a pair of pants until the Academy of Rhea Lucaria, and even then, they were like half pants. So for a while, Jimmy Faith, Man of the Cloth, was pantsless. But before that, you are treated to, I'd say, the strongest opening of any FromSoft game. The narrator here absolutely slays it. And truth be told, the entire game's story can really be garnered from this opening narrated cinematic, but you don't really know that until you play the game. Lacking context, you don't really know what means what, but coming back to watching that intro again after beating it, everything starts to make sense. Man, guys be afraid to moan, but I'm in my girl's ear like, oh. Rise now, ye tarnished. Truly, if we all had the confidence this narrator has, screaming out the words, the loathsome dung eater, depression would go extinct. Thrown into the game, you receive the classic, here's the first boss that you're gonna die to treatment, skip the tutorial because you don't understand metaphors, and you are greeted with a beautiful, immediate open world. Words don't do justice to the beauty of this starting area. It is by far my favorite starting area of any of the Souls games I've played. Well, all right, Bloodborne's close. The foliage, the abundance of colors, the Erd tree taking up the skyline, all of it just dripping in detail and finesse. And the first NPC you see immediately says that you get no bitches. And then Miyazaki, in a move that altered the cosmos itself, gave you the here's the second boss to die to treatment as you immediately make your way to the golden armored horse in front of you and get bodied. And this is where the game is subtly telling you that this isn't quite like all the other Souls games. It's telling you that through the first merchant, your new rideable steed, the dungeon pointer dudes, that this is a game that will reward exploration. Not only does it have you reward exploration, but there's a reason to come back to multiple areas, i.e. the tree sentinel. I mean, some of you might bash your face into that giant horse riding fuck and then maybe you'll beat him that way, but most of you are instead going to attempt to move on forward with the story, go through different areas, level up, and attempt to go to the next spot, which is Stormvale Castle. The game is saying, hey, explore the areas. There's new enemies, there's items for crafting and collectibles, there's hidden dungeons. Oh, and don't mind the fucking dragon in the lake, because me, Miyazaki, to you player, is saying, let me tell you something, Kim. You're gonna need all that stuff, because my first major boss is not gonna really let you through.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Back at it again at Krispy Kreme.
Margit, the Fell Omen, a genuine roadblock for new players. Every one of these games has that major roadblock boss, I'd say, to really say like, okay, are you prepped for the full world you're about to experience? You might be making your way through it with some backstabbing cheese, maybe some magic thrown here and there. You're getting used to just holding shield and everything, but at this point, it's time that you need to alter your stuff. At this point, cheesy strats aren't gonna work, and whatever newbie gains you've got isn't gonna work. It's time for you to actually, literally, for the first time ever, used properly, get good. You wanna play Elden Ring? Beat him. He's fast. He's slow. Quick strikes, drag strikes, jumping attacks, ranged attacks. He's a genuinely great boss. You can't roll spam against him. You need to memorize timing patterns. He is a genuine get good boss. If you want to survive an Elden Ring, learn to beat Margit. Because if you can't beat Margit, how the hell are you gonna beat this, or them, or her? You might not even be able to beat her, if I'm being totally honest. Melania fucked up my arm and took my kids, gave me scarlet rot of the anus. But what Margit does, besides drag attacks for 3 years, is force you to engage not only with the combat system to a T, but engage with the leveling system too. For most of the beginning of the game, you can just grab whatever weapon you can actually hold and go to town with it. But if you want to beat him, it's time you got started on your build. And that is my biggest compliment to Elden Ring, is that the build diversity is substantial. Souls PvP players are some of the whiniest and saltiest people out there. They are worse than Overwatch players sometimes. And when I hear them bitching about every single type of build, then that means we're in a solid game. Now, some builds might be more viable than others. You are in an RPG, no RPG is truly balanced, but now I feel like you can actually build yourself like an RPG. Full strength, easy. Magic, sure. Magic dex, 100%. Moonblade, fuck you. Going blood, why not? Full dex, hit that shit going. Faith, incantations, miracles, let's fucking go. Pyromancies, dragon shit. All these things are options. Jimmy Faith, as a man of the cloth, realized that the only thing his devotion to God was second to was his devotion to gains.
Yeah, buddy! Wait! Yep.
So strength, faith, I went, and for a large majority of the game, I spent it utilizing the giant halberd the tree sentinel gives you. Incantations for regenerating health, or for giving myself extra defense, or things like flame cleanse me, or perhaps some more damaging stuff like the black flame you can do, and just running around with that giant halberd, it felt good. Strength, faith, for someone who barely ever used any kind of magic stuff in prior games. The only time I put that giant thing down was when the blasphemous blade was calling my name, because I mean, come on. Now we can devour the meta together. The way he says that, man. Together. He's fucking... But everything works now, because I know it does, because the PvP community is whining about all of it. This is genuinely the most freedom I've had in build diversity in any Souls game, PvP and PvE, and they've made respecking incredibly easy, and they give you so many options to do it. All you gotta do to respec is go abort Renala's Amber baby. Oh, speaking of abortions, Caelid. Man, I don't like Caelid. No one likes Caelid. The location variety is quite nice, despite that giant red piss-ass swamp. The early game is a bit samey, with the usual gold and yellow flowers everywhere and grass, overgrown ruins and that crap, but it does smooth out with time. I think the biggest change in scenery I saw was when I got to Hogwarts. It's also when I noticed something about this game. The open world stuff, the open world area of Elden Ring is very good and surprisingly suitable for this game, but it might not be the highlight for me. Now, it makes leveling up easier. It increases enemy variety, increases build variety, it lets you find new weapons and new bosses and different areas to explore that lead to even crazier areas, because there's a whole underground area that you never thought about as the map keeps expanding. And it also plays to the strengths as FromSoft as a developer. Their level design has been incredible, and despite me not being the biggest fan of Dark Souls 1 at times, the level design of that game is immaculate, some of the best in gaming. This was my map at the end of my playthrough. Notice the violent lack of grace spots. I didn't bum rush through the game, but I took it at my own pace. I went where I wanted. I didn't make sure that I get every single nook and cranny. Oh, I gotta make sure that I go that way before I go this way and this way. No, I just went. Sometimes dungeons, sometimes the mines, sometimes the underground area, sometimes not. I probably missed an entire 30% of the game, but there is no doubt in my mind that 30% is just as beautifully woven into the game as the rest that I did play. However, despite all that, my favorite sections of the games were the linear ones. I was happy every time I reached a section and we went into that old school Dark Souls variation of linear areas to move through. When, yeah, they had plenty of different ways and areas you could go around and pathways and that kind of stuff. And there was more to it than normal, but I liked those linear sections. I feel FromSoft's level design is the most apparent here, and also their visual design is too. I feel most comfortable with a light guiding hand going my way. You know, not a grabbing one, not a yank, but a light, like the pie in a cartoon where the smell like beckons. But I don't want it to be too linear, like Dark Souls 3 can fall into that trap sometimes. I'd say the perfect example is the Volcano Manor. There is an obvious direction you're being pushed towards, but there's lots of different side areas and beckoning hands and different parts of it. The Volcano Manor feels just really tightly designed and really well made, but not constricting. It's the perfect in between of just enough linear and just enough exploration. So Raya Lucaria, the Volcano Manor, the Hallowed Tree, the Stormvale Castle, and then Oklahoma, all those areas were my favorite areas of the game because they had just enough of that guiding hand for me to follow and go through. Plus, their visual chops were the best there. Volcano Manor and Raya Lucaria especially. And actually, the Hallowed Tree was really gorgeous. It was very, very comfy looking. It just was surrounded by the most disgusting things ever. I should make it clear that I don't want the whole game like this, but I do think that that part of the game was the best parts of it. The combination of the open world seamlessly blending in with those linear sections, I think was just done masterfully. It also is great because the enemy variety is so high in these areas, and they all work with the places they're supposed to be in. Things like soldiers of Godric, that's just normal foot soldiers in Stormvale Castle, they have their place there. But then it's always mixed in with so many different variations, like bird with knife feet, autumn text, gargoyles flying around, and giant trolls pushing carts, and those kind of looking more Viking dudes with their curved swords on their horseback, the big dragon in the lake. There's just so much there. And then when you get to each of these more linear sections, they have so much more there. The Academy Raya Lucaria has those insanely frightening Iron Maiden on wheels things. You have all the spellcasters, the variations of spellcasters, you got the pot guys, and a giant ball, and so on. Souls games have always been really good at this, you know. Raya Lucaria, magic, lots of magic stuff. You got lots of scarlet rot and creepy bugs in the Hallowed Tree, and you got a bunch of snakes in the Volcano Manor, but there's still so much variety in those enemies that it's okay, it's unique despite it being kind of obvious. This does, however, wear to a point. The capital itself is pretty great. The soldiers there are really interesting, and they're much stronger than the soldiers of Godric are. And that's really, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Lothric Castle near the end of Dark Souls 3. But right after that, after you take your step from the capital to the snowy hellscape that is the mountaintop of the giants, enemy variety takes a bit of a dip. In fact, a dip in quality that is rather uncharacteristic of FromSoft, because I mean, every game has its area that you're a little bit less keen on, especially in Dark Souls 1, because it was like Lost Isolates was very obviously unfinished. In this one, almost unanimously, once you get to the mountaintop of the giants, everyone agrees that there is a dip in quality and a massive spike in difficulty. Difficulty, Bricky. Okay. A difficulty. It's such an uncharacteristic dive too. Tons of reused enemies, health bars, double, damage, triple. I feel like everything is a mini boss that I'm fighting, and everything three-shots me. Boss fights and dungeons are reused as regular enemies up here, and the enemy variety seems to have been plucked from various areas in different spots of prior maps. Like the big old swampland underneath Hogwarts has a crazy ton of enemies, those weird fish-eyed people, the poisonous flowers that are there, plus all the soldiers, plus the wizard dragon, you know, just in that swampland alone. And the lobsters, the giant lobsters. But why are Caelid birds in the snowy mountain areas? And why are they so much stronger than the other Caelid birds? Actually, this, you know what? This is a great time to talk about enemies I really fucking hate. Birds with knife feet, the scarlet rot centipede things, blood dungeon imps, revenants, the Iron Maidens on wheels, Knights of Zamor, rot dogs, and finally, revenants, because it bears repeating. Who made that enemy? Who thought that was a good idea? The same motherfucker that made shark giants. But the mountaintop feels like it pigeonholes the player. Like before, Margit was your blocker, right? Margit was like the get good time thing. But now when you've beaten the capital and you've beaten Morgoth, Margit the Fell Omen, Morgoth the Omen King, really great disguise, by the way. You're certainly not underleveled because you just beat the capital and there's a ton of enemies there and lots of runes and very high rune rewards, and you just killed Morgoth, so you're probably not underleveled, but you might be over-leveled because you've done so much of the game, plus the capital, that I do think quite a few people beat Morgoth a little too easily because they were just exploring everywhere prior. But it's like the game expected you to be over-leveled because of the way they made you explore everything and tried to reward you for doing so. So by the time you reach the mountaintops, they're either still too hard because you're over leveled, or basically impossible because you're at level. It is a shockingly difficult spike. It almost makes me believe that the capital itself should have been harder in order to prepare yourself for this increase up to the mountaintops and reward you for exploring more. Make Morgott the blocker twice, which is an unfortunate thing that this dip in quality was so hard, because like I don't mind all bosses being reutilized. Like that's fine. Some of them can be. The weird watchdog things that look like cats but are, I guess, dogs that have the really annoying stab move. Like if they're redone, all right, whatever. The Soldier of Godric is a freaking boss, for God's sake, and he's everywhere. But others, like the Black Knife Assassins, for example, the ones that turn invisible and grab you and backstab you, yeah, that just feels like poor design. Luckily, not every boss is reused, but a lot of them are. Luckily, most of the reused bosses are just kind of dungeon ones here and there that became regular enemies, and I guess that's whatever. But at least most of the main bosses are not reutilized, and if they are, they're not reutilized as a regular enemy. I'm not a big fan that Mohg and Godric can be reutilized, but at least they're not just a regular enemy roaming the streets. The main bosses tend to be really good in FromSoft games, and luckily in Elden Ring's case, that is exactly what they are. The design of these bosses are spot on. You've got Godric, Renala, Radon, Morgott, Rykard, Millennia, Blade of Mikola, Godfrey, Malakath, Mohg, and Radagon, and just Radagon as some really highlights here. The names you hear spoken to you over and over again, the shard bearers of the Elden Ring, this is where the designs went out to. This is where the strength came from. They have some problems. Some are a little bit annoying on the run back, Renala. Some will give you more opportunities to attack, Malakath. Some are the Blade of Mikola, Millennia. But where they never disappoint is all that other stuff. Their aesthetic, their voice acting, their themes. The narrator was just a prelude to honestly some of the best voice acting I've heard in a video game, which is shocking that it's so good here, because normally that stuff is reserved for, one, not localized translation, and two, much more like mocap, facial animations and stuff. These people barely move their mouths, if anything, and yet they've got just so much power and effort put into their voices, especially the bosses.
Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights.
What is thy business with these thrones? Ah, Godric the Golden.
Join myself and King as remedy. Together we will devour the very god. Welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of our dynasty.
Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
It's an often overlooked part of these games because it's not just some major linear kind of story-based game or one that has a ton of mocap. Every voice though, every voice from the sassiness of Ronnie to the Sir Gideon, Ofnir, the all-knowing. But I'm getting off track. The boss design here is mostly phenomenal. For the main bosses, there are a lot of reused and overused side dungeon bosses and the like, but for the main bosses, they're pretty incredible. Godric is an incredible early game fight with a great theme, great aesthetic, really good second phase, and incredible voice acting. Praetor Rykard took the Storm Ruler gimmick fight and actually made it fun, while combining a great aesthetic and some of the funniest goddamn voice acting I have heard in a game in this last like 5 years. There's some problems with that stupid skull move you keep running away from, but overall, it's just worth fighting him for his voice. Guys be afraid to moan, and I'm in my girl's ear like,
Join myself and King as remedy.
Morgott, I think, is massively slept on for the reasons I mentioned earlier, where you might be over leveled to fight him. I think the Morgott fight is a standout. Top 5, definitely, maybe even top 3. He's got a great cutscene. His VA is incredible. The entire room, like his battle room, is wonderful. The theme is good. His phases are awesome, and the new moves he has, it's just a really slept on boss fight. Radon I fought post-patch, and I don't really care about that because I fought him the way of the festival, the Radon Festival, where you summon everyone around. That's just fun. That's just a good time, and I love it. Just seeing Alexander the Jar run his way up is great. Godfrey is my favorite boss in the game, so much so that I wish he was harder. Phase 1 feels like the fairest fight in the entirety of the game. It feels just really strong with just enough opportunities to attack, just enough combos, and just enough time to memorize what he was doing, and even a nice little bit of mix-ups where you can jump over his kick move instead of having to roll everything, making it feel a little bit more like Sekiro, if I'm gonna be honest. And then phase 2, he just doesn't give you a moment to breathe. He is on your ass, full stop, going straight from like this giant muscle-bound warrior guy to Zero's Wrath. The man throws out wrestling moves.
I've given thee courtesy enough.
Just press the buttons, fool boy, and take that. And take this command grab like a man. Thank you.
The screams he does. Miyazaki really decided that he was going to make the Giga Chad meme in the game, and he pulled it off. Godfrey is an inspiration. I look at that man, and I think to myself, this is why I try to lift more. Well, you know. If I look 1% like him when I'm in my 40s, I've lived a good goddamn life.
Man, I don't feel like working out today. Maybe tomorrow.
Okay, let's talk about Millennia, Blade of Mikola. Or better yet, let's talk about unavoidable damage in this game real quick as a tangent. When I said the game can be too hard sometimes, I wasn't just referring to the difficulty spike at the mountaintop. When it comes to Souls games, there's always a thing I appreciated in each of them. And it was that if I was good enough, there was never a point in which I would have to take damage. If I was good enough with my dodges, my jumps, and my sprints, everything I could dodge. Elden Ring doesn't appear to like that much. There are multiple instances of bosses that can hit you with guaranteed damage that I either straight up can't dodge or don't have nearly the reaction timing to dodge. For reaction timing problems, I can think of two. I can think of Godric. He does that like spinny whirlwind move, and if I'm close enough to him, I take damage immediately. It has barely any time to react. That one doesn't bug me as much because it's such a tiny bit of damage. And the other one I'm thinking of is Malakath. When the first phase of his fight, he does the backwards double slice and then throws rocks at you. I hate that backwards double slice. It's so fucking aggravating. As for flurries that you can't dodge roll, Morgott, I believe, has this combination of sword plus light sword plus hammer or something of that nature that you can't dodge all of them. I know Godfrey in his second phase has a flurry of fists that you can't hit them all with. And then you've got Millennia's waterfowl dance. Even some regular enemies have moves like this. I know Commander Nyal up in the frozen area, he summons these two guys, and one of them has this big icy sword spin to win move that I can't seem to dodge. And the other guy has the one where he slams his shield down, it stuns you, and you take guaranteed damage from the next swing, which is a little bit aggravating. There's a lot more of this in Elden Ring, and I don't mind enemies being harder. I don't mind enemies being faster, and I don't mind enemies having crazy combos like this. But when I take guaranteed damage, it's pretty aggravating. It also removes the concept of this really exciting clutch moment where I'm down to no flasks, barely any health, and I can pull it off just because I was such a goddamn gamer. I got good and was able to dodge everything in the game. I don't mind crazy stuff. I just need the ability to see it and react to it, or be able to react to all of it if I learn the timings. Which is why Millennia, Blade of Mikola, is a boss that if you tell me you love or hate, both completely valid answers. Millennia is a boss I love, but she is total bullshit. I love her because I love her design. I love the unpredictability. I find the fact that Miyazaki makes enemies that are about the size of our characters some of the scariest and hardest to be fun. Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower is my favorite boss fight in Souls games. And that feeling, that Hunter v Hunter thing in Bloodborne is a ton of fun to me. So when I fight enemies like Millennia, Blade of Mikola, I really like it. I like that mono-y-mono duelist challenge. When I learn her combos, when I know what slashes do hit and don't hit, when I really start to figure her out, I feel so rewarded. It feels more like a dance than anything. There are also parts of this boss fight that I really like more than other boss fights because they are harder but in a more fair way. Some of her moves have end lag that varies, so after she'll hit me with a certain strike, I know I can hit her with just a light attack, or sometimes the end lag is so long I can charge up a full heavy with my tree halberds. Some of her moves can only be dodged in a particular direction. For example, she has this one where she collapses her blade to make it smaller and does this little flurry in front of you. I know that you can dodge that by going towards her and to the right and not get hit by any of it, because if I go backwards, I'm gonna get clipped. However, she's fucking bullshit. If you want to be a shield user, get fucked. You literally can't be a shield user against her. Her lifesteal doesn't matter when you have a shield. She will just take full lifesteal, which is bullshit. Summoning ashes or sometimes other players is also a terrible idea because she can heal off them too. Waterfowl dance is literally undodgeable. That first flurry, so long as you are somewhat close to her in any way, is completely undodgeable. And she starts it up so fast that you do not have the time, if you are currently engaged in combat with her, to run away far enough. Flurry 2 and Flurry 3 of Waterfowl, however, is very much dodgeable. I know that after I take God knows how much damage from Flurry 1, when she starts the second one, I need to dodge to the left and towards her. And then when she starts Flurry 3, I need to dodge towards her again and then backwards after she's done with it to avoid the last little bit. I was able to replicate this pretty consistently, and I liked that challenge where it wasn't just about learning when to dodge, it was learning about when and where to dodge. That was fun. Flurry 1, it's not fun. It's bullshit. The only way I can imagine someone dodging this is some ridiculous speedrunner level no-hit level 1 crap that 99.9% of players are not going to be able to do or replicate. Now, phase 2 is a lot of fun. It's a really cool looking face change. Her design is amazing. Miyazaki somehow made a naked woman tasteful in his fucking Souls game, but she does some annoying shit like extending combos randomly for absolutely no reason. It feels like she gets more hyper armor on certain moves and not others, but only sometimes. And often she'll start up some moves so fast that I won't have time to react whatsoever. For example, she'll finish this big combo on me, I move in for my hit, and then she immediately flies up in the air, infects me instantly with Scarlet Rot, and then sends down her little skeleton projections the entire time while I have to sit there and wait for her to come down. Often I find myself waiting for her to finally come down or for her flower to be removed and all these kinds of things where I just wait and wait for the boss. This is a similar problem with Malakath, where he jumps in the air, does 3 giant spin blade things, lands on the ground with a stab, and then explodes. And then maybe, if I'm fast enough, I can hit him. Figuring out boss attacks is fun. Figuring out timings is fun. Learning how to dodge them is fun. I like Malenia because the time I spent learning not only when to dodge, but where was an enjoyable extra challenge. I like the design. I like how difficult she is. I like the dance. But she's got some crap. A lot of enemies in this game have some crap like that. You know, when someone goes to the state fair, it's trying to make the biggest burger ever, and the winner makes the burger, and it's fucking crazy. It's enormous. The fact that it's actually a burger is insane. It looks like a burger, but it's gigantic. But if you look closely, you start to see the imperfections just a little bit. You see some areas that are a little burnt, some areas that are a little bit underdone because the patty is just so big, right? The fact that they needed so much lettuce for it, and some of the lettuce is not as clean looking as the other bits of lettuce. Malenia is the boss version of that big fucking burger. She's so over the top. She's so exciting, so fun, so interesting, but she crushes herself over the weight of her own ambition. I liked learning about her. I liked fighting her. I liked the design, I like all that stuff, but some of those things, the guaranteed damage, the combo, the duration extenders, the lifesteal, just removing builds, all that stuff, those are the imperfections of that burger. Honestly, that burger analogy is Elden Ring as a game. It's so impressive, it's so beautiful, it's so shocking how good it is that every crack, every tiny problem with it is highlighted that much brighter. The cracks in the FromSoft formula, the limits of boss design with this kind of gameplay system, it's starting to show. The reusing of enemies and just the crushing weight of what they were trying to accomplish here. It might be the biggest Souls game, it might even be the best Souls game, but it feels the most unfinished. Like I said, not because it's bad, but because it's so good that every little bit stands out that much more. It's why Radagon of the Golden Order, final boss of Elden Ring, is so goddamn good. For the most part, almost everything about him is spot on. He feels mostly really fair. He feels fun, good health, good attacks, good ways to learn everything. I think the teleport move is kind of bullshit, but besides that, he's clean. And then you get to Elden Beast, one of the prettiest trash tier bosses I've ever fought. A boss full of undodgeable damage, the big orb, a whole bunch of running away with downtime, him flying in the air and making you just sit there and watch him go as you jump over hula hoops surrounding you over and over again. It's a boss so poor by being so pretty that I'm positive Torrent was supposed to be used for it. It's shocking how much is built for Torrent. I genuinely believe they tried to put Torrent in there and something broke. It moves like a dragon, like the ones you've been fighting the entire playthrough. Tons of them, in fact, with Torrent. The way it goes up in the air and does stuff, the way it runs away, the whole thing. Think about it. That orb, that guaranteed damage, Torrent can outrun it. Those lasers that you have to go in a weird circle for, Torrent can outrun it. When the Elden Beast decides to RNG fuck you to death and do both at the same time, Torrent can move. Maybe the balls combined with the big long range slash attack, Torrent could jump that. Lore wise, Torrent is shockingly important. He picked you. Melina and goddamn Ronnie trust Torrent. They care about his opinions so much. He's a major part of the game. He is so obviously meant for this fight, and something probably broke on it. And so they had to scale the boss down somewhat, but not entirely. And so now you have a genuinely unfun fight to deal with. One of the best Souls games out there, and probably one of the most unfinished. It's why I think people won't consider it their favorite. It'll be talked highly of, especially for the open world stuff. Oh, absolutely. But everyone's number one? I don't know. It might be my number one, but it's tying with Bloodborne right now. I need to play more of the game. I haven't discovered all of it. I haven't done every quest line, and I still need VatiVidya to finish telling me what the lore is. I actually really like the Elden Ring lore. It might be my favorite lore out of all the games, but right now it's a little bit under Bloodborne. I think Bloodborne mechanically is not as strong as Elden Ring whatsoever, but something about it. The difference between good and favorite. Genuinely, this game succeeds in so many fronts. It's going to be talked about for years on end. It's going to be videos that are going to be just consistently coming out for years. There will be content to be made. There will be lore stuff to come out. There will be people describing every other open world game to Elden Ring for a while, just like they did with Breath of the Wild. But a perfect game? Hell no. A finished game? No. Bullshit? Yes. Amazing? Absolutely. The hardest part about reviewing games is being able to talk about how much you love a game and how good it is, and simultaneously point out the problems, because no one wants to hear it. No one ever wants to hear complaints for a game they love. I love BioShock. It's in my top 3 games of all time. I've got a chain link tattoo on my wrist, somewhat kinda, and yeah, I've got "Would You Kindly" tattooed to my fucking calf. What would I rate BioShock? 7.5 out of 10. Because everything after the "Would You Kindly" part kinda sucks ass. And the final boss sucks ass. But I still love it so much, it's on my body. And that's why there's absolutely nothing wrong with pointing out the problems with this game. Not everyone's gonna agree with me, and that's totally fine, but I despise the people who hold FromSoft games as if they're perfect masterpieces. They're really good, but no. They've got a lot of issues. With that being said, Elden Ring's my game of the year so far, and we'll see if anything overtakes it. Thank you all very much for watching this video. To my patrons, you were all fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to create content like this. This one took a while to come out, and I hope you understand why. It's a long one. I'm gonna recover from this hopefully soon. With time, check out the merch site, check out Gamersupps, and let's read some quick questions. How was your year of 2012? Amazing. Junior year of high school right there. Mass Effect 3 came out that year, played it a ton. I think that was either Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 3, or the following year past that. I played a lot of that too. 2012 was a good year for my gaming time. What is my favorite New Vegas build? Also, have I heard of Fallout 4 New Vegas? I have. I don't know if it'll work because, you know, modding and copyright, all that stuff, but I hope it comes out well. New Vegas build, I like melee weapons a lot. Melee tank is really fun. You can just beat the shit out of everything besides Death Claws in the Courier Mile, and those things will kill you very badly. Do I like to cook? If yes, would you like to cook? What would be the dish you know you would do the best. The best dish I've done is a braised pork belly on rice. That was in a Fallout cookbook. It was called Braised Deathclaw. It's just braised pork belly with rice and like sesame seeds and green onion, that kind of stuff. I just really like it. I think it's amazing. As far as cooking, I do like to cook, but I'm not that good at it. I normally cook meals that are for me, dietary meals, so lots of rice and egg and chicken and that kind of stuff. So my meals are generally not that exciting, but I do like doing it. I'd like to get a little bit better at it, but normally the more extravagant stuff you cook, the unhealthier it is. So we'll see. Thank you for watching, everyone. I don't know what my next video is going to be, but yeah, you know, fuck you, Raph.
Come on. Obviously, you're a skater.